Hello everyone, I am Infact. Welcome to my channel where we play a war game Red Dragon and, well, maybe other games sometime, we'll see. Today I am going to try and start a series I wanted to kickstart the channel with, which I've nicknamed Diary of a Rookie. And basically it's a series where I'll be going into ranked matches and trying to, climb the ranked ladder. We're starting from the bottom. I've never played ranked yet, and we're going to be doing all of that from a rookie player's perspective. I consider myself maybe a journeyman now. Like, I know I can beat newer players at the game in a match, but I still consider myself, pretty new. And I think this will be a fun experiment to keep myself interested and look for improvement, and, well, hopefully it'll be entertaining for you. But before we begin that, I thought we'd use the occasion to do a little bit of a deck building exercise to keep things interesting. So here's the gist of it. From the way I understand it, there are multiple approaches and techniques you can use when building decks for Wargame Red Dragon. There's an art to it. Like, of course, there's more or less cookie cutter builds that are generally considered the best. But even those builds usually have a lot of personal preference and playstyle variation you can work around with. So usually when building a deck, you'll be using multiple approaches and maybe different techniques, mostly unconsciously, because I don't think those have been really formalized, but I think they exist. But today we'll try to showcase one approach to deck building. We'll be focusing on this one approach, trying it out, and trying to go over a deck, building a deck, and then iterating over versions of that deck until it gets to a point where I kind of like it. So the approach I want to showcase today is what I'd call a premiums or MVPs first approach, and we'll be using a coalition that works very well with that approach, I'd say, which is Commonwealth. So let's get to it. Let's go in decks, create, blue for Commonwealth. We'll be doing a general deck, and let's call it CMW Premiums. So the way I describe a premiums first approach is you don't start by having a deck template in your head. You're not like, okay, I have roles to fill that need to be filled, and I'll be finding the best units to fit those roles. That's another approach. Instead, what we want to do is we want to go through our coalition and kind of analyze it and find out which are the core premium units of that coalition, which units we have access to that are either extremely efficient for their cost or even underpriced for their performance, units that are unique or give you provide unique approaches, strategies, and opportunities, and stuff like that. Basically, units that are cut above the rest, and rather than taking a template and filling it out with units, we'll be building out from those best units, and rather than having like a set idea of what roles we want to fill, we'll let the units kind of set the pace for the deck, and we'll see if through just using those best units together we can find a form of synergy, and then we can find out where these units kind of fall apart, or what support units they then need to work correctly and stuff like that. So let's begin with just like the core of the skeleton of the deck. One thing I like to do usually is make kind of a wish list in the logistics tab, which usually means I'll just like fit it all out, and later on, if I run out of APs, I'll just like do some cuts in this tab. That way I can it allows me to avoid overspending in other tabs, because I've already overspent in this one, and I think the logistics tab is one of those tabs where it's always never a bad idea to overspend. Like you can use all your 5 slots and it's fine, because when you use your 5 slots, what you can do is you can get an infantry CV. And look at that, we already have one of our premiums units, the Lynx AH7, an excellent transport helicopter with good old sneb rockets. Rocket helicopters are just amazing, as transports in particular, and the Lynx AH7 is no exception. Well, most rocket helicopters with 1 HE rockets are usually considered kind of bad. But yeah, the Lynx AH7 is an excellent one. It's really fast, 320 km/h speed, quite cost efficient. It's got a bunch of snebs. It can absolutely vaporize infantry squads and light transports. So yeah, so we'll be taking an HQ section. So this way we have an infantry CV, and then we just fill it out with other stuff. So what I like to do when I'm building out my logistics tab is I'll just get like an infantry CV, a wheeled CV. Here, I think for Commonwealth, our best choices are either the Iltis, which is like just a jeep that's faster, always nice, or we can get the Grizzly, or even the ATO 105C, which is nice because it's got more armor, and that 1 point of armor and more HP, of course. That 10 HP and that 1 point of armor, well, makes it better at surviving, you know, mortars and stuff like that. So I think we'll be going for. But the issue if you do that though is, you know, you don't have like a super cheap CV. So even though the Eltis is pretty nice, sometimes you might just want to take like the cheapest CV you can, just so you have more points in your opener when you do double CV openers and stuff like that. So I think we'll just start with like a dumb regular jeep. And then we want to have a tank CV to go with that. That's like the trifecta of CVs. For Commonwealth, I think, yeah, our best tank CV should be this one, because basically for tank CV, all we want is a CV that has 2 top armor. Nothing else really matter that much. So we'll be taking the Leopard AS1. And those are 3 CVs. We'll just fill that out with double card of supply trucks. And if we feel that we later on don't need 2 cards of supply trucks, we can cut one out. If we feel we need a fob, we can cut a supply truck, place a fob, and that way we've started filling out the deck. And then same thing, I like to do the plane tab, at least a part of it, because the plane tab, since the plane tab is like the most expensive tab in the deck, it can be easy to kind of block yourself out by building out the deck, and then you're like, oh, I can only get 3 planes or 4 planes and I wanted 5. So it's often good to just like make sacrifices in there. For planes, we can follow the premiums strategy, but plane tabs do have some cookie cutter choices that we can't really avoid. Like we need to have an ASF, so we'll start with that. Let's start with our ASF. For our ASF choices, we've got the Hornet, we've got the Tornado F2, and the Tornado F3. The Tornado F2's particular trait is it's what I'd call a good enough ASF that's very cheap, and that can be really helpful. That plane will kill attack aircraft just fine, and it's pretty survivable. It's got exactly the same speed and ECM as the Hornet, 15 point less. What it lacks is compared to the Hornet is just, actually it's pretty nice, it's pretty decent actually. It's even got 4 missiles, it's really well equipped. What the Hornet has in its favor is the Vulcan, which gives it more close range firepower. If it can catch up to a plane or run face first into a plane, it'll deal a lot of damage with that Vulcan. And it's got 6 SRAMs, but only 2 LRAMs. So the Hornet is a really strong close range plane that is more limited at long range. and it's got the same missiles as. So the Hornet, you usually see it used in NORAD because NORAD has trouble. US doesn't have a lot of like cheap good planes, and the Hornet I think is like just a straight up better version of one of their other planes. So yeah, this is a strong close range plane, but it's a bit expensive. Close range planes are less versatile because you have to get well up close and personal, so you run the risk of running into their A net to kill their planes. That can be undesirable. And then we have the Tornado F3, which we could just consider an upgrade of the F2. It's got similar payload, same gun, 2 more SRAMs and an upgraded LRAM that has more range. More range is nice, and it's got 10% more ECM. So is the range a big deal? Well, range is always nice because if you have longer range, you shoot your missiles first, and if you're like having like a duel against another plane, or if you're just trying to stop a plane from bombing your troops, if you can hit it faster, things will usually work out better. It's even truer with semi-assisted missiles because for one, if your plane gets stunned while its missiles are still in the air, it'll miss. And if your plane actually launches its missiles from a longer range and misses or hits with both, it can then shoot like another volley of missiles. So the longer range, because semi-assisted missiles, you only shoot the next volley once you're done aiming the first one. So semi-assisted missiles, if you have more than 2, having more range might let you let loose like another volley of them more easily. So yeah, I think we're gonna go for the F3 here. Do note that the F2 though, yeah, you do get Elite on the F2 though, and Elite is really nice to have because you get more accuracy. So those missiles you launch at closer range, well, they're gonna hit more, which is also really nice because planes are really, well, ASFs in particular are really RNG based. You're just throwing the dice. You don't have any cover or anything like that. Yeah, I think we'll go with the F2 after all. Okay. And then, do we have any premiums in our plane tab? Well, another mandatory plane that's kind of like you gotta take it if you have it is the ATGM plane. And as Commonwealth, we have a pretty special ATGM plane. We have the Kahoo, which has a fantastic payload of ATGMs on a shitty plane, pretty much. It's a 600 kmh plane. It's got decent ECM. It's decently cheap, but it being so slow does mean it can be less survivable, or it can be easier for your opponent to dodge it, which can be a problem. And special note, special mention to the Skyhawk. If you're playing a Marine or a airborne deck, the Skyhawk can be a really annoying little plane that you can spam for cheap to just like blow up your opponent's medium tanks and stuff like that. Anything that like they're not bothering to protect with smoke, you just send the Skyhawk and you break him up, and it's pretty cheap. It's not that big of a deal if you lose it. And if your opponent sends an ASF to try to intercept it, you can send your own ASF and like, you know, attrition them out like that. But we're not gonna be playing Marine or Airborne, so never mind that. We'll be taking the Kahoo trained. We don't need more than trained. We already have a lot of accuracy. And so those are kind of like our 2 mandatory planes. Do we have anything else that's like really special as Commonwealth that we'd like to take in our plane tab? Let's see. We do have the. Where is it? Where are you, boy? Oh, there. The F111C or F111C. Really good bomber. I think we could easily say it's one of the best bombers in the game. It's got a pretty fat payload, 4-ton bombs, 1-ton bombs, and it's fast, survivable, and yeah, it's pretty good plane. Interesting look as well, interesting design. So we'll be taking this bomber. So now we've basically filled up like the basic roles that we'd like to fill in, and like I know we said we wouldn't be filling roles in our deck building approach, but I think for planes it's kind of you kind of have to do it. I can just be like, oh yeah, we have 3 good ASFs and just take 3 ASFs. Other good stuff we may want now is one thing that's very nice with Commonwealth is we have a very cheap seed plane we can take. Electric Voodoo. We can take it 2 on rookie. 2 on rookie does mean it'll sometimes just miss with both, which is sad. 1 on veteran. One thing I like, this is a 1v1 deck, let's remember that. I don't think I'll often want to buy 2 seed planes in 1v1 because it's a very, very like support kind of buy that's there to support your other planes. You don't want to like sink too much money in it, so let's just get 1 Electric Voodoo, and then I think we will want to try and get our 5th plane, and if we find we need more space in the deck later, we can cut a plane and be perfectly okay with that. We could take the Sea Harrier as well as a seed plane. It's more accurate and has more range. It's slower though, and has worse ECM. And no stealth. Oh, no stealth is a big one. Seed planes are very good with stealth. So as a 5th plane, what we could have is like a rocket plane, a cluster plane, or I'm very partial to Helo Hunters myself, Helo Divers, sometimes they are called. In the Helo Diver department, we have the Harrier GR3, that is basically a rocket plane and Helo Diver. Or we have just the Sea Harrier, which is just a Helo Diver, but will do a much better job at diving Helos. I think we have some special mentions on the Canadian side, like the Starfighter. Heck, the Starfighter has the Vulcan, actually. Vulcan is really good at killing Helos. It's pretty short-ranged, but it's not too fast. It's got no ECM, though. Not ideal. But Vulcans are really good at killing Helos, so maybe not. Let's get the... And yeah, for your Helo Hunters, we don't want them to be too fast, because they need to be able to do at least like a pass. We've got the Mirage, which... not very interesting, too fast also. Like I said, we don't want them to be too fast. We want to be able to spray the Helo with what we've got. And so we've got the twin Aiden. Only 2 rockets. I just feel like I've tried the Harrier as a Helo Hunter or Helo Diver a couple times, and it's really hit or miss. I think we either want the Sea Harrier or the Starfighter for the Vulcan. And what's the air detection on? I think we'd go for the one with better air detection. That makes it a bit more versatile. We can spot the other team's Helo Hunter and stuff like that. So we'll be placing it here, and I like having my seed plane at the end of it. I usually have all the same order always: ASF, anti-tank, bomber, whatever, and then seed. Okay, so this is like our basic skeleton. So we've basically not started building the deck yet. We just picked stuff that fits in basically any deck and that we generally want. So now the fun starts. I like to start with the infantry tab, because infantry and tank are like the core of your deck. So we don't need to mind too much the particular playstyle or anything of that sort that Commonwealth has, since right now we're just picking the best units. So special mention to the Canadian Airborne, one of my favorite infantry units. Unfortunately, I don't get to use it too often because it sits at this interesting midsection between Eric's infantry and shock infantry, because the Carl Gustav has such a long range. Basically the Canadian Airborne are like a really good shock infantry squad that you pay a premium for, so you get the Carl Gustav M3, and it's a fantastic bazooka. I love the Carl Gustav M3. it'll just give you side shots all the time. Like you're in a city, a lot of time like towns are close to forest and you're fighting in the forest, and then an enemy tank rolls in and they just don't. They've misgauged the distance from the town. You just walk up to the side of the town. You side shot them with your Carl Gustav M3, collect your your win. But yeah, in the case of Commonwealth, we have more pressing concerns. So our most noteworthy unit, the unit we absolutely want to include, is the Commandos 90, the arguably the best anti-infantry shock infantry unit in the game. Hyper cost efficient. It's got a tricked out special main weapon, and it's got a very decent launcher. 18 launcher is nothing to sneeze at, and it's got the best engine in the game. As far as transports are concerned, we have kind of wonky choices. Unfortunately, that's like a Commonwealth thing. All of their transports are kind of eh. We've got the N113A1. That's nice because it's got 2 MGs, but it's got only 1 armor. And the usual like cookie cutter choice is just the Aslav. Aslav is nice because it's fast. It's got a medium MG. That's very nice. And it's got 2 front armor. So we know we want at least 1 card of commandos. We may take 2, because as you can see, we don't get a whole ton of them, and they're amazing. But we'll see about that. Other units that we have that are fantastic. We have the Highlanders 90. This is a star unit. Like most decks, pretty much any deck that has an Eric's 10-man squad, 10-man or more squad, you want to take it, because the Eric's is like a fantastic ATGM, like sort of ATGM launcher hybrid. It's got such high power, good range. The only problem with the Highlanders is they're not shock. That's sad, but you know, you're mostly taking them for the Eric's, and they still have a mini-me. So even if they're not like fantastic as fighting infantry, they can still like take care of themselves. So the Highlanders definitely going in. So those are our 2 biggest premiums. What else we have as premiums? You'll notice that we only get like the Milan 2 as our best ATGM, so it's like, you know, we'll probably end up taking it, but it's not a priority. It's not something we're like desperate for. The next one would be Canadian Rifles. Canadian Rifles are our best 10-point infantry. They're one of those rare few upgraded infantry that you get for 10 points. Stuff like kind of like the Yakari 90. Of course, the Yakari 90 are bullshit, because they not only get an upgraded launcher, they get an upgraded MG. Whereas with Canadian Rifles, we only get the upgraded launcher, but that's already very good. And we can take them in. We basically have 2 transports that are pretty decent: the Bison or the TH495. But honestly, if we were not taking them for the TH495, we'd probably not end up taking them, because while they're a nice 10-point squad, they're not like mandatory. They'd have to have like a really good. They need to have a really good transport to justify taking them, and you know, our 5-point transport is the opposite of very good, because it's only got 1 front armor. But the TH495 is an excellent transport. It's maybe a bit expensive for the stats it has. If it was 15 points, it would be amazing. But one thing it's got going for it is it's pretty fast, 75 km/h speed, and it's got medium optics. Medium optics I like. It's very nice. So we'll be taking that. And we're already at 23 minutes recording. We'll try to progress a bit faster then. So those are, I'd say, our big core, and then we've got maybe some units that are worthy of mention that we may or may not take. SAS are a pretty unique choice. They're sort of an LSTR, Erikoi Akari sort of unit, where they're an infantry unit that is a 10-man squad with a man-pad launcher, and they've also got a pretty decent anti-tank launcher as well. So the issue with SAS is you only get them with helicopters. Well, you do get them with the best helicopter you have access to, so that's great. But they're a bit expensive, and they're not as versatile as other choices, but they're very nice. Another unit that is very nice to have is paratroopers or Gurkhas. They're almost the same unit. They have the amazing Law 80 launcher, which is a great launcher to just like crush light and medium vehicles in forest. It's also the highest AP launcher you get apart from the Erics. Unfortunately, you don't get anything higher than 22, so it's very nice to have. And they've got a good suite of stats, and you can get them in the links. And Paratroopers 90 in the links is an excellent combo. Same thing can be said for the Gurkhas, but the Gurkhas you can't get in the links. That's a big downside of them. So you'd usually take them in the Puma is not really great. So in the Saxon. So as far as we want to go, if we're going for a thematics of using our premium units, if we can match a premium unit with a premium transport, that's always going to be better. So we either want to take paratroopers or SAS for our fourth slot. And I think SAS gives us more options. Paratroopers give us kind of more power and give us a nice long range, nice launcher we can use to supplement our other troops for close range fighting, and they're 10 points cheaper, which is a lot. So we'll take them that way, and we'll just leave the next slot open. We'd probably just take Milan 2 in it, but one thing I want to do is try to keep anything that is not like an obviously super good choice for our deck. Maybe we'll just leave not take and start with an unfinished deck. And through our first matches, we iterate over, okay, what's the deck's missing and stuff like that. Like, I can't afford to do that because I have no rank. I'm not even a private on rank, so I don't care if I lose a few matches because we've got holes in our deck. So after infantry, the other most important tab is a Tanku. So, well, we've got one of the best super heavies in the game, so of course we're taking the Challenger too. Speaking of premium units, well, and then, well, we've got one of the best medium tanks in the game, the Mexus. Very offensively oriented. It can punch up against more expensive tanks. It's good at forest fighting. It's good at a bit of everything. And then apart from that, we definitely could have this is basically like we could have just that as our tank tab, but that wouldn't be playing to our deck's strengths because Commonwealth has really strong tanks. Challenger 1 Mark III, an excellent heavy tank, very strong armor, very strong gun. It's a really versatile tank to use in as a heavy slot. For 1v1s, it can be a bit expensive. We already have 3 Challenger 2s we can call, so maybe we want to go lower. The Challenger 1 Mark II tends to be the overlooked of the bunch, the overlooked one of the bunch, because it doesn't have a specialty. It's just too well-rounded, and the tanks that are too well-rounded tend to be too well balanced between offense and defense, tend to end up being pretty mediocre at both, and that's the case with this one. Unfortunately, it's basically a Leopard 2A4 that you pay 10 less points for, that is slower, and I don't know if I really find that exciting. That said, Challenger 1 Mark I is an excellent medium heavy tank. It's got a very nice, decent cannon, but it's got a lot of armor for its price. So this is a very chunky tank. It's a tank that is really good at massing up because they're hard to deal with. Like one Challenger 1 Mark I, for the price you pay for it, it's kind of a pain to deal with. But if you get 4 of them, then it starts to get really annoying to deal with them. So we're gonna take them like that, and we might come back for a light tank, but I don't think so. And we don't have that much else that's really spectacular. Those are, I think, my 3 favorite picks. A special mention to the Chieftain Mark 11. I think it's a pretty interesting tank. I haven't used it much myself, but 19 AP for 80 points. That is a big ass gun. That's a really big gun. It doesn't have like a very high rate of fire, so it's the kind of tank you do more of a peekaboo kind of strat with. But especially if you mass them up, you can just like alpha strike anything down. So interesting tank. Maybe we'll revisit one at some point. So our recon tab, arguably considered the weakest tab for Commonwealth. Honestly, I think it's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. Green Jacket and the Pinzauer. Basically, Tsar, basically only decent shock choice. So it's not a premium NVP unit, but we need recon. We need them. And one unit that's pretty nice though is the SBS. They're not like amazing, but they're not too expensive, and they fit a pretty nice role in the deck. We can get them in our beloved links, and we can even get another card in Stalwart. But I think just getting them in the links could be fine. For helos, we have no good helo choices. Like the cheapest helo we get is this thing here. It's decent, but it's a bit expensive. Like most other coalitions, you get a scout helo for 40 points. We get ours for 50 points, and sure, it's got a minigun, but it's not on a turret. So most of the time, and it's got 4 HP. So most of the time, it just like encounter something it wants to shoot at, try to turn to face it, and die. So yeah, as Commonwealth, we may very well just consider not taking a recon helo and toughing it out, and just living with the fact that we don't have a recon helo, and that sucks. Because otherwise we have like the Gazelle snap, which is it's pretty memey. It's got 12 snaps, 4 HP. It's got exceptional upsticks. That's nice. It's kind of nice, but it's pretty fragile. I don't know. It's not very versatile, and we do want our picks to be kind of versatile. So we have the Aslav 25, which is our spam autocannon recon vehicle, and then we could take like anything else. Those are basically like those are the bare necessities. Let's not go any further. Vehicle tab. One thing that's interesting with Commonwealth is we have a recon tab. Before we go do recon tab, actually let's do support. Vehicle tab. Let's do support. Support tab. So we have units that are worthy of note. We've got the Stormer, an excellent anti-helo unit that is also very decent against planes. It's got its IR, always nice. The only thing is it's got this kind of meme habit of shooting at ground units for no reason at all. But we love the Stormer. We like it. Track Rapier, basically our only really viable anti-plane option, so we'll take that. And personally, I'm very partial to the Wolverine. It's a very nice unit to have, so I'm just gonna reorder them because I like having plain helo, and then that. We're gonna take a mortar. We know we want a mortar. We don't have to like pretend we don't want a mortar. And that's basically it for RT. Our choices are pretty limited. We've got a heavy howitzer. We do have access to the M110. Those are things we may consider trying out, but they're nothing like spectacular. I don't think this is particularly good from what I've seen, so we can just be okay with that. Helos, same thing. We don't have a lot of like impressive stuff. The Lynx 3 is interesting, but it's expensive for what it does. Hellfires are nice, but really, as Commonwealth, killing tanks, it's not that big of a problem. You have one of the best tanks in the game. Just fight their tanks with your tanks, and you'll be fine. And you've got other stuff like the Erics and blah blah blah. So we may want instead. Let's go. Oh yeah, we do want the Lynx AH7 20mm. It's nice to have. You can use it like on your flanks for base defense and stuff like that. It's just very useful and neat unit to have. And first card cuts one. And then yeah, vehicle tab. Interesting thing is Commonwealth actually has a few interesting picks in the vehicle tab. Let's also remember that we haven't picked our 5th infantry slot. So technically we'd only have 2 points left if we pick that infantry slot, which is 1 unit. That might be a problem because there's maybe 2 units I'd like to take here at least. We've got the Centurion Aviary. The Aviary and the CV are just really interesting and very strong units to help support your infantry in forest fighting. This is a good unit to support our commandos and Canadian rifles and all of that for forest fighting. As Commonwealth, I think we're pretty decent at killing enemy tanks in forests, and enemy tanks are often the aviary's weakness, and we tend to have somewhat expensive infantry that we want to preserve, so being able to just nuke the enemy's infantry with our support unit to help our infantry live longer is pretty good. Then we've got the Vickers, which is a really well respected Commonwealth unit. It's a bit expensive, but it's got a really strong cannon, excellent range, excellent accuracy. It's basically a wheeled tank, and that's how you want to use it when you do a wheeled opener. And as you may have noticed, we have a lot of wheel stuff. When you do a wheel opener, you can get a Vickers or a pair of Vickers, and they'll take care of killing the enemy's wheeled opener. It'll kill the enemy's wheeled transports, the enemy's wheeled autocannons, all those VABs the Eurocore player brought, all those KTs. Too bad, my friend. You're gonna need tanks to deal with that thing. And it can go toe-to-toe with the AMX-10, I'm pretty sure, though that's risky on both sides, I'd say. And it's even got medium vision, so it's pretty great. But yeah, we might run out of cards. But like we said previously, we can always drop a CV card or an air card. Those are not mandatory. Vickers, really nice. Other good things I've mentioned, the Chimera. Chimera is a very interesting unit. Enormous armor. It's got the most side armor of any unit in the game. And it's basically just like a really big tank destroyer that is really good, very good at defending against tanks and maybe doing peekaboos and ambushing tanks and stuff like that. It's very cost efficient. It's got very strong stats for the price, with the disadvantage of not having a turret, so it's not as effective as a tank, but it's interesting. I don't think we need it. We're already pretty good at killing tanks. We do want the Vickers. Let's take the Vickers. And other units of note, we have the Rover Wombat. Is I don't use that unit usually, but it's a nice meme unit. It's one of the few recoilless rifle jeeps that has 1900 range. I think it might be the only one, and that's and 14 AP. That's a lot of range for a 10-point recoilless rifle spam unit. You can do a lot of damage with that. Iltis TOW2, just like TOW2s can be nice to have again. Tanks are not that big of a deal for us. We have good tools to deal with them. And then we have the Aslav TOW2, same thing. It's a really good... Actually, yeah, there's almost no reason to take the Iltis when you can have the Aslav, which is 100 times better for like 1 more point. But that should be it. And now we would probably like to fill out our last infantry slot. But does our deck really need it, is the question. I like ATGMs. Personally, they're always useful to have. The Milan 2 is like, it's not a great EDGM infantry, and I think we may actually try out not running it, because it's a unit usually take for granted. It fills a very good role, but you can get away with not using it, and some decks don't have ATGMs like US, and they do fine. So maybe we'll just skip it. And yeah, maybe we'd like another card of commandos, but we've not tested the deck yet. Do we have enough commandos? Do we have too many commandos? We don't know. We actually don't know. So there's no need to just double down right away. So I'm just gonna go reorder our cards. Our spam infantry is actually the Canadian rifles, accompanied by our commandos, and then I like to place my wheeled stuff and then my hero stuff like that. So this is our infantry tab. Logistics, this is all fine. This all seems fine. Since we've got an extra card available, we could take a tank card, but I think we'll just leave it like that, and that way we can later decide what we'd like to add. Because if we add a card right now, we may lose. We may not remember later that we added this card as like our last filler card. And then we're like, what should we put in the deck? I think something's not working in the deck. And we maybe cut something else when this card we just added on a whim. So let's just keep it that way. And 40-minute video for building a deck. So yeah, so to recapitulate, we've went through building a Commonwealth deck, and we've done it by focusing on our premium units. I couldn't help myself, and I did still ramble about roles and stuff like that, but first and foremost, we focused on getting our best units and filling out the deck with them. adding a few support units like, you know, a mortar, and we're not we are trying not to concede to our instinct of, oh, I should fill out the deck with X, Y, Z, because those are just like preconceived notions we have, that that a deck should have this and this and that, and that's kind of like this template we have in our head. But there's nothing telling us that all decks need to follow. There's nothing to say that all decks needs to follow this template. And if we build all of our decks with this like template we have in our mind all the time, well, we may end up building the same deck over and over again, and that can get boring, and that can make us want to play another game. So yeah, here we've made a what looks like a pretty interesting deck, and we're gonna be taking it out for a spin. I'll either start right away ranked matches, or I'll see if I have a buddy online that wants to give it a spin with me. So thanks for watching. Let me know if I've rambled for too long. If you have any criticisms or advice or comments, just leave your comments and tell me what you thought of. If is the format of like building out a deck and giving my opinion on it fun? Is it useful? Did I say anything that sounded useful? Did I provide you any insight? Am I an idiot? Let me know. And well, be nice to me too. I'm a person. I'm fragile. I love you. So I'll see you later, guys. See ya.